I'm in the journalism for the last 25 years. Before coming to the session, I was just trying to find out okay, how much startups have grown up. Yesterday, Prime Minister Modi gave one statement. He said that 40 lakh people are directly or indirectly getting employment from the startups. So it's a huge number. And I just came across a Bloomberg report also. That report says that a Japanese company has launched its shares 2 days back for launching its spacecraft, commercial spacecraft for landing in moon. And on the first day, that shares got the marvelous response. That is a startup company. So this means startup has a big time and big base, can be a big opportunity. And for the country like developing country like India. So we are here to discuss how can the media play an important role to change the mindset. Amit is with us. He has a wide experience of journalism. Premjeet especially comes from Gurgaon. He is working for Wavemaker, a company that brands companies and help them to make their image. So we are going to start with a brief questions. So I will start with Premjeet. Sir, my question is why brand building is important for a startup?
So thank you for the question. Yeah, brand building is certainly important. Yeah, everything starts with the product. I think a startup usually focuses a lot on the genesis is the product, right? The product gives you what I call has some attributes, right? So a car has 4 wheels. That's the attributes of the product. Those attributes give you what you call functional benefits for a consumer, right? What branding does is it over that layers or adds the emotional benefits of the consumer, right? So therefore when a brand person sees a brand, it's not just a label or it's not just an ISI mark of quality. It is something that evokes emotions in the mind of the consumer, right? We very well know that Coke, Pepsi, while it is only colored sugar water, right? Each has a very different personality and each has different fans, right? So the brand is the part which brings that. So for example, if I were to take a small example, if let's say in the auto category, somebody brings in XYZ technology in their engine, which gives them a lot of engine power, right? So engine power is a functional attribute. But they translate that functional attribute to saying now you have freedom because we are giving you power. As a person you have freedom and you start associating with freedom, right? At the same time, let's say there is another company which has got another technology which gives them not power but let's say excellent mileage, right? Now that company could also say now that I have given you a fantastic mileage, you can go wherever you want without worrying about your purse and therefore I have given you freedom, right? So this is an example where different functional benefits each can also lead to a brand positioning as we call it or a brand benefit. So while attributes can be copied, right? While attributes can be copied, these emotional benefits cannot be copied, right? And that is why in a startup, not only startup but in any business, when you create a brand, it creates affinity, loyalty, it reduces consumer acquisition cost, it allows you to create a community. So these are all the reasons why you should become a brand, because it also becomes a barrier for others to get into your territory. I hope that.
So Premji was saying that brand building makes develop the emotions towards the product or towards the company. And I am taking further. Now I am asking my colleague Amit. Amit, do you think the media can project the startups, have the capacity to project the startups in the right perspective?
Thank you, Vishal. Is it audible? media, you asked whether media plays a crucial role in a way at projecting the startups or building a brand. Yes, of course, I say that now over the years, since it's not from in this age, from the years, the day journalism started, people say, the media has been playing a crucial role. If, for instance, I talk about my organization, I represent Jagran. So Jagran came into existence. At the time, the need was altogether different. Today, needs are different. That was Quit India movement was on. So the Quit India movement, that was a very small movement at the beginning. Everything like starts very small. So that required a brand building also. If we talk about the brand building kind of thing. So Quit India movement became that big because media came into existence. Media played a crucial role and Jagran came out of that. So Jagran started and Quit India movement, they participated very, very rigorously in that. So similarly over the years and decades, as the decades change, the needs changes. So as of now when we talk about the business entrepreneurships, I believe the media has been playing very, very crucial role. It all depends whether because the startups, for them, those entrepreneurs, I simply put a one-liner that they need you as much as you need them. So this is a kind of mutual thing. So whenever there is a startup, only the gap where when we talk about kids, this is a big startup. There are certain examples. For example, we talk about Rinku Singh. Now that's a kind of entrepreneurship in cricket. Rinku Singh became sensation overnight. He was in the same city, he was playing in the same city, he was playing for that state also, but there were hardly media coverage, there were hardly people who knew. It was because there was a gap. I think the startups or the entrepreneurs need to understand that gap. Whenever you have to place your product, whenever you have to place your, say, or the quality or the emotion, whatever it is, you have to identify the right kind of media. And for that, I think that's a very, very crucial thing. Because I said, they need you as much as you need them.
So my next question is, after this, what will be your advice to the owners of the startup that how and when to contact the media to narrate their successful business stories?
See, over the years, I believe that India has transformed or transferred, you could say, the focus has been from India to the Bharat. So, Bharat means the rural India. If in that terminology we talk about the India is constrained to now the metro cities. So, you have to go to Bharat. It's the local, lot of things, lot of government entrepreneurship, government support, which is India to Bharat. And as far as I talk about my Jagran organization only, like we have that pan-India presence. We are spread out of the 10 states. So when we talk about the 10 states, you have to cash on your geographical dividends, like if the placement is there. You have to talk about the geographical dividends, and you have to talk about the, what you call demographic. So demographic, if we, like it's said that Indian manforce, when we talk about the manpower, it is the young. We talk about that India has a future because of youngs. And young, it is the 16 to 30, 40, some age. So if we talk about the media role, so now Jagran has a 54% of the youth, where this age group is, we have a presence in those markets. So whenever my advice is, whenever you look for a placement, kind of a media support, you have to talk about or think about that how can you monetize the geographical dividends of that organization and how you can monetize the demographic presence of that organization. That is a must.
As we see it today, approximately 45 to 50% of the advertising monies today are going into digital media, right? About 30% of those monies are going into television, right? About 10 to 11% of the monies are coming to print. So, not to worry about that from the point of view that when you look at digital, while the number is huge at 50%, within digital, there is a huge fragmentation, there is search, there is social, there is video, there is display, there is e-com. So it looks huge, but an individual format right? A kind of individual media format still is around 10-12%, not more than that, right? Now, in such a range of media that is there, what becomes important, and I'm not directly talking of print, what becomes important to decide what media you want to use is what stage of life the brand is in, right? According to the stage of life of the brand, so for example, if you're a new brand, you first need to work on what we call awareness and recognition, right? People need to know you, right? If you imagine the purchase funnel, which is broad at the top and gets narrower as we go down, at the top is the need to drive awareness and recognition. In the middle of the funnel, what we call is you drive brand preferences, right? You try to create an image for the brand. And as you come to the bottom of the funnel is where you drive sales or conversions. Now there are two models which are possible, right, to use. Is if you are looking, if you have a long-term scope, if you have a long-term point of view, if you are not making the startup to sell off in 1 year, then you will invest on the top of the funnel, right? Because that gives a recognition to the brand, also drives valuations incidentally. The other view is don't worry about the larger population and just focus at the bottom of the funnel to drive sales. That needs different kind of advertising. So according to the stage of the brand, according to the ambition of the brand, according to the size of the audience and the demographic profile of the audience, you then decide which medium to pick, right? Sorry for such a long tirade, but
It's an interesting one.
yeah. Now, however, if you generally want to compare mediums, like I said, digital is great, evolving medium, we are all on digital, so it becomes a choice. Television, because video was the darling of everybody when it came in terms of television, and it very fast took over print. Now, there are certain aspects of print which are very critical and we are not able to let go of them as a consumer, right? So first thing is, and you think of it as you consume media yourself also. Print today, even today, is the most credible medium, right? So when something gets printed in paper and you see that, there is no denying that, right? There is a lot of fake news, there is social media, you do post, you don't know whether that's a deep fake or that's a propaganda news, but somehow print still managed to keep its credibility. That's a very, very important part. Second thing is that while we talked of other mediums are so fragmented, right? So television has got some 800 channels, ever increasing. Digital, as I said, only 4 or 5 large formats, but within each platform there are like 7 different formats in which you can do digital. So digital is very fragmented. Now why is being fragmented bad is because if you spend money to put one ad spot, there is so much fragmentation that the consumer might just not see it, right? So while you still pay for each view and all of that, but there is a delay that happens. Whereas when you come to print, right, fortunately for print, even today in any major city or small city or state, largely 2 or 3 publications kind of capture all of that region. And therefore when you place an ad in media planning, we talk of a term called reach build-up, right? The speed of reach build-up. So in print, 80% of the reach that print gives, almost 80% of them can be got within day 1, rather within a few hours after the newspaper is delivered. Whereas in digital and in television, there is a gradual speed reach build-up that happens. Yeah, so there's a difference on that. The other things are print is very action-oriented. Yeah, in the sense that not only can you do an ad on print, you can with the ad lead the person to a dealer nearby. You can use exploiting the digital. You can use a QR code and take the person to a digital destination or to get him to do something. Right? You can take that person, you can actually these days with print publications, and I'm sure your publication also will not only offer to show a print ad, but do an activation. That means an activity for the client along with the print ad in the market. So that is not only about saying that this is what the brand proposition is, but actually going and demonstrating it to the consumer. So there's innumerable advantages that you get, and that is why print often still, despite not being among the top revenue mediums still gets a place in the media plans that we see. It's a brilliant medium for announcement. It's a very good medium for education. And if in that print, if the editorial participates with the commercial, you can actually change mindsets. You can actually bring in a whole lot of talk about the category in the editorial, right? In the content, which supports the brand or the advertising that you are doing. So there are a number of these things. Sorry, took a long time, but I wanted to.
Vishalji, I'll add one point which is very, very crucial for the print media. That there's always a debate between digital and that says digital is the future or print is going down. See, the print media, I always believe print media is a physical mode. And the physical mode, whatever is it, that creates a sensory inputs which goes to your brain. What the print media, this sensory inputs which goes to the brain, and there are lakhs of pixels on a screen or a mobile screen, they can never do that, but the print media can do that in the physical mode, I believe that.
Sir, बच्चे differ करेंगे.
They will rely.
Taking the lead from the previous session, was talking about the voice of voiceless. So we can say we are the voice of the people, means the media. So I'm again asking the question to Amit ji. Okay, any tip for these budding startups who are the future of India, how to counter the fake news?
See, it's a very, very big challenge, the fake news. And again, I very strongly believe that some people might not be agreeing with me or they have a different opinion or from the digital. This is absolutely a brainchild or a byproduct of this digitalization of the media. So over the years, because there is no kind of a regulation, I believe. For the print, there is a regulation. Because you have enough time to build up a brand, like Dainik Jagran. I work with most of the English dailies, and then I'm putting in this Jagran since 16. I can easily vouch for a fact that whatever the credibility Jagran has built, this is because of the same exercise which you mentioned. Our editorial line is very clear. We can afford to miss a news story rather than giving a fake information to the reader. And that credibility, because of this credibility, we have spread like anything. Jagran has spread over the entire country, and this is growing with many brands. They are acquiring the brands, English newspapers, they acquired Midday because of this credibility only. Because in digital, this fake news is a big challenge, and in digital, I feel that it can't be curbed. Because everybody who has a mic or who has a phone, he says, I am a digital journalist. How can you regulate them? There's a big challenge before the authorities, before the Press Council of India or before the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Whenever you spread a fake news, they block you and you raise a voice. You say, this is a suppression of the media's voice. That is not the media's voice being suppressed. That is suppression of the fake news. I haven't seen any kind of such news stories which talk about the truth, whether this is against the government or whether this is against an individual or a corporate, and that is being suppressed. It is not. They have their own voice. Even if the government or any channel, any regulatory body blocks them, they have their own voice. So fake news is a big challenge. This is something starts from the society. We have to be very, very, like, whenever we get you ask how this can be curbed. My only point is that this has to be curbed from the audience. Like if I get on a WhatsApp, I should be sincere enough, I should be intelligent enough to guess whether this sharing should be there or not. If you stop sharing, that fake news menace would be controlled automatically.
I can add one point as a journalist. You can also start tweeting and start using microblogging sites. If somebody is writing something, spontaneously you start clarifying it, this is not true. You start tagging the people who are linked with that. That will help you spontaneously. Now I'm again coming back to the commercial side to Premjeet. Premjeet, how frequently, this is the last question, how frequently Waymaker is helping the budding startups to build their brand name? How frequently you are helping them? Helping means giving them some discounts or concessions in building the brand.
So we are lucky of the 1,40,000 crores worth of advertising that happens. Fortunately, Group M, the group which I belong to, manages 44% of that in India. So we get lots of opportunities for brands to come and work with us. But I will not deny that a lot of the smaller startups don't come to us because most of them think बड़ी company हमको help नहीं करेगी. But ज़माना बदल गया है, छोटे से छोटा business important होता है, so we cater to all kinds of clients. So we get lots of opportunities. Just to give you context, if somebody is looking at it, so usually what we find is that what the startups need is less of advertising, but more of strategic thinking, right? Because advertising is very easy, and by the trend that we see, most startups think advertising करना है मतलब IPL में आना है. मतलब that's to a large extent for many brands that can be very very harmful. But so it's more about when you talk of advertising, there is the concept of what is your business ambition first, right? Which you do in terms of finance and your consumers need to acquire and all of that stuff. What is the profile of the consumer? Where is that consumer? What are the geographical definition of where a consumer is? What are the traits of your consumer? What is the propensity of the consumer to buy into your category, and what is the chance of your brand being picked up in that category? So there's a lot of strategic work that gets done to ultimately then come to say, okay, now to generate so much of sales, I will over the next 6 months spend this much money. The budgeting itself is quite a scientific thing, right? I'll spend this much money, and then how that money needs to be spent. So we do all of this for brands. What I only want to end with saying is, in my limited experience, is that usually in the entrepreneurs' minds, they are very product focused and media comes last. सब कुछ हो गया, then they say चलो अब media में क्या करना है. Whereas I believe that media should be an ingredient of your product. Till you use your media, your monies to tell your brand narrative and your story, it is not going to be a long-term success. So please provide for media budgets, not for the sake of our company revenue, but please provide for media budgets in your planning and let it not be afterthought. And whether it is a larger company like ours or not, there are innumerable number of smaller consultants, studios, companies which are available to advise you on media. Just make sure you look at media seriously and do not leave it for जब बड़े होंगे तब media करेंगे.
So my last question to Amit ji is, what will be your advice to the beginners in the startup? How and when to contact the media to narrate their successful model so that others can also emulate that?
Like Premjeet already explained kind of thing. I'll just, because we are being signaled to wind up, so I'll just put a practical example which I have seen, okay, like that answers your question, when and how the media can play a role, or when the beginners can be approached. I was on a fellowship in US, and I was working with the Cape Cod Times. Cape Cod is an island above the Newport state. So what happened that we were sitting having a dinner with the editor and all. So one startup opened there. They opened a kind of a restaurant chain there. So like he said, generally what happens is when the product is ready, it's into the market, and then your sales don't go down, then you approach the media, or you then plan the media. So he was about to open, and he discussed that how I can, that guy editor said, what are you doing on weekend? He says, this is my team, this chef and all. So the media collaborated, that Cape Cod Times, that's a local community newspaper, they collaborated with the restaurant which was yet to be opened. They said, what you can do is, because like I said, they need you as much as you need them. So what that restaurant did is, they said, we offer you our staff, one chef and 2 guys. You tie up with us, you take our staff to your readers for the weekend. They will go to their kitchen and they will cook the food for you. So that was a kind of a collaboration. And within days, that restaurant opened, I was there for 2 months. I saw that collaboration flourishing like anything. And that's the key point, when to add. And that should be the very beginning. The collaboration might be advertisement, collaboration might be with the editorial or the activation, which a lot of organizations, like he mentioned, they do that. So that is the right, I think, that explains your point.
So I will end this session with saying I was in Nairobi in 2019 to attend a UN summit, So they took all the media persons for a site visit where they have shown us how the farmers are rearing insects on human waste, and from that insects are used for the animal feed. It's a high rich insects, means that fly is known as black soldier fly. Too many startups have set up there, they're rearing that black soldier fly. Similarly, in Kenya, there is no sewerage system. They are still using that old system, means they go through the latrine, there is no flush system. So they used to lift that all. After that, there is a public place where all the villagers go. So they are using that poo for making charcoal, and it's a very successful model because too many people are now in that business. They are all small business people. They are using that poo for making charcoal, and that charcoal they are using for their household cooking and everything. So such success models can be narrated to the media. If media go and write, people in other places, like in India, we also came to know for the first time how they are rearing that fly, and they are rearing the cricket also. Cricket is a small insect. If you go to the Himachal Pradesh, in the evening you will find tree. That tree insect is full of calcium. The farmers are rearing it, and they are using that insect for making high protein biscuits and other things for the bakery products. And that is a marvelous example for others to follow. Thank you. Thank you.